life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey listeners, welcome back to the Roadshow. Energetic guide and certified Find Your Voice healer Scott Holmes, co-creator of Find Your Voice 4, is my guest today. You'll find his full bio and social media links in the show notes. So, hey everybody, I'm Dianna Leeder. I'm the host of the Crave More Life Roadshow podcast. I'm an intuitive coach and life hack and a confidence coach who helps women and men get what they want when they find their voice. I'm also the proud lead author of the Find Your Voice, Save Your Life book series on Amazon. And that includes the award-winning Powerful Healer Spiritual Stories and the beauty that we're here to talk about today that's being published this coming August. So excited. Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. My guest today is Scott Holmes, Reiki master, Polarity therapist, Theta healer, author, certified Find Your Voice healer, and my personal co-conspirator, in a really good way, of the Transcendent Men book project. Our Scott Holmes is a guide on your life journey, connecting with your own vibrational level, no matter the emotional, energetic, spiritual, or physical roadblocks you encounter. There is a path to healing and clarity leading you to your authentic understanding and your joy. His business, The Healing Journey, uses Reiki, Polarity therapy, Rise, is it Rise in one word or R-Y-S-E?
Rise.
Okay,
Rise, yeah.
And Theta healing techniques to clear your energetic system. We'll get back to that later, yeah. Tools such as yoga, crystals, meditations, sound, journaling, and therapeutic oils are all used to help you establish daily rituals that support your healing. I am so honored to have been working with Scott for almost a year now on our Transcendent Men's book. When he first approached me to join energetic forces with him and bring this book to life, I had to think about it. I really loved the concept of creating a safe container for men to be able to tell their stories about transcendence, the befores and the afters, but I wanted to be in full integrity with how the concept of transcendence and finding one's voice comes together. And the more I thought about it and the more Scott and I talked about it, I realized that we were saying the same thing. And from there, we just kind of jumped right in. This book is such an exciting venture that will no doubt change people's lives. Before we talk to Scott about it, though, even more, I want to encourage all of you who are willing to be a part of our launch team to put a big yes in the comments below. That may not work because I'm not sure if you're going to see this live anymore or I'm on Facebook, but you can also email Scott or I. You'll find the email addresses in the show notes. Just let us know. That would be great. I also want to acknowledge Scott's commitment to the men of this book and otherwise. No small feat. He supports the transcendence of any man into living the lives they want to live and being the men they want to be. He's never wavered or questioned. He just shows up with open arms and a loving heart, being fully transparent about his own journey and holding space for everyone. This would not be the book it is without Scott Holmes. So thank you, Scott. You've become a lifelong friend and I'm grateful to be walking this path with you, and welcome to the Roadshow.
I have been waiting a long time to get on the roadshow, okay? I think I booked this about 9 months ago, and it finally came.
Well, I may have just put you off a little bit just to tease you a little bit, but
I think so too. But I thank you, and it has been a pleasure, this journey from literally a year ago, to be able to work with you, have worked constantly, the constant communication. It's been a collaboration made in heaven because we get it. We get each other. It works so well. And that's very unusual for any two people, really, when you come down to it.
It is.
Married,
Yeah.
not married, friendship. I mean, there's always a bone of contention somewhere. And there really hasn't been. And there is that mutuality, that mutual respect that comes through. And I think really with the what really pushed this book across, because as we know, it's very hard to get guys to open up, be that their vulnerable selves, and be able to basically show it to the world. That's a hard spot to be in. But you created that safe container. You were the one. You're the work that you've done in coaching people to be open and finding themselves, finding their voice, being able to say it, own it, and grow through it. The authors, for any of you who get the book, we've had the opportunity to read the stories before, obviously, it comes out. These stories are amazing. These men have gone through tremendous hardships. Some of them have, you wonder how they survived their upbringing, some of them, and they've come through on the other side. And that's where we use the term transcendent man, and everybody struggles with it, because there are many ways to describe what a transcendent man is, or what transcendence means, or should you be sitting basically in a wrap on the top of a mountain and say you're transcendent, and that's the only way we see it. We see the guru up on top of the mountain.
It's true.
But I think the mountain is that mountain that we climb within us. It's that difficulty getting up to the very top to be able to see it, and then your perspective changes. You get up to the inside, that mountaintop inside of you, and all of a sudden, everything looks different. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Love that. I love that visual of climbing a mountain, because that's really what our healing encourages us to do. It's kind of plateaus, right? So yeah, I really love that piece. So before we get into any more about transcendence, tell us a little bit about your path. What led you to? What was the pull for you to transcend or to grow and heal?
To grow, I've been a lifelong caregiver within my family. My daughter was multiply handicapped, and then my wife was a 20-year breast cancer survivor. So you have that roller coaster of survival instinct of trying just to get through the day a lot of times. And one of the things that I connect with a lot of people is that they have elderly parents, or they have a spouse, or they have children that are in need, and it takes a very special person to be able to stay with that all the way through, all the way to the end, even knowing where it's going to go. So after my wife passes, when I'd always wanted, there was more out there. I always knew there was more out there, and I never had the time. I was always working for others, and I found it was time for me. And when we're in that caregiving, that giving all of yourself to everybody, you feel selfish doing that. You feel selfish taking vacation, time off. You feel selfish doing something for yourself. But that's not the case, because when you give everything of yourself and you're empty, there's nothing else to give. Filling that glass is, as our friend James is one to say, if you keep pouring the water out of the jar, eventually the jar is empty. You have to refill the jar. You have to put it back in. And so that was that point where I said, okay, for me now. And after I worked through everything of mine, you get to the point where, wow, I can share that. Look at all these things I found. I wonder if other people know about that. hey, I bet you I could help other people. And one of the pulls I've always had is being a teacher, um, being able to share knowledge that I've acquired, and all of the guides that I have in my life, um, and all the teachers of the different modalities, they're giving their knowledge to me, and I want to pass that along also. And it's something as simple as being able to learn how to breathe again. Um, we've talked about just that breathing. I mean, how many articles, how many chapters, how many books are written about breathing because it's not done consciously.
Yeah.
So that point where I wanted to turn and do more of this.
Do this for you. Yeah. Do it for you and then do for others at the same time. I have to just say though, you referred to yourself as a teacher, and I think you are, because that's exactly what you do. You're imparting your knowledge, on others with others. And that's amazing. But I gotta say, you're a lot nicer than a lot of teachers that I had when I was going through school. So so anybody who takes your stuff and absorbs it is very, very lucky. So yeah. But
Thank you.
but I like that. I like that. We do have to reach a time in our lives where no matter what we're experiencing, where we have to stop and look after ourselves and fill up that jar, or just be who we know we need to be and meet those needs. And so kudos to you for doing it.
A lifelong friend of mine has said, I always admire you, and I'm looking at him like, don't get it. Because I always viewed my life as a struggle, as a struggle for survival, as trying to, keep my family together, to, get through each and every, as the roller coaster went, each and every, hospital visit, all of those things. And I just saw it as survival.
Yeah.
And he said, no, because you've come out on the other end and you're not bitter. There are so many people who have gone the other way and have just decided to, that's it, and drown themselves in whatever vice they find. Um, so I don't find it remarkable, but we've talked about this many times before. And when we're doing the book with all of the male authors, they live their life, so they think it unremarkable. And they're telling their life story, we get to witness something that is remarkable.
Yeah.
And that's that finding the voice. That's the healing prospect and aspect of it. By the way, anyone out there who watches this, my dear friend Dianna will be coming out with another book. And if you ever want to heal, truly heal, and go through the process of writing your story in 3,000 words, it is therapeutic. It will put you right on edge. It will bring you to places that you've never been before by yourself without being guided. And it is the most healing therapeutic thing that I've done, is write that story in the chapters. And that's how you find your voice. And after you tell it and you show the world, it's real easy to tell your story. You don't have to hide anything anymore.
Yeah, there is such power in that release, that thing that we're afraid of, or whatever we've been trying to manage so carefully, that we can just suddenly let it go, just put it out. And yeah, that the walls come down after that, don't they? The armor, I think.
The armor,
armor?
the armor.
Yeah.
The armor and the castle walls that you build to keep everybody out and everything in, or vice versa. Yeah, it comes down, and you don't need that anymore. You don't need the armor. You don't have to carry that with you anymore. And it's such a relief. And your energy level just goes through the roof.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And all that starts, or midway, or even finishes with writing, for sure. Such a powerful tool. Yeah, thank you for saying that. It really is. I hear that all the time from authors. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the transcended man. Like what, so we've talked about the plateaus, to getting there. So you kind of have the visual to, you're going upward in terms of your own growth and your own alignment to self, etc., etc. But let's hear about the transcendent man. This was, this was the big thing for you, right? This was the thing. Transcended man. This is it. This is it. So tell us what it is.
What is it? Transcendent men is living from your heart center. Most men that I know, it's all in their head. They're taught throughout their lives. Emotions, not so good. Put them aside. It doesn't matter if you don't feel good about something, you need to do it. This is your duty. This is what you're responsible for. This is what you're supposed to do. Wait a minute. Well, what if it isn't really what I want? Well, it doesn't really matter all that much. You need to do what you need to do. And over years, it gets in, that gets hardened, habits form, the way we do things form. And so many men, by the time they're 22, they figure, okay, I've got it all figured out. For the next 60 years, I'm good. I don't have to change. I don't have to do anything. Transcendence, unfortunately, as we see in some of the stories, is kind of triggered by bottoming out. If you know, and we've all dealt with the isms, alcoholism, drug, whatever addiction there is, where it goes so far that it destroys the life. People don't look for help or change until they get to the very, very bottom. They have nowhere else to go. Then they finally admit that they need help and they need change. Transcendence, when we're trying to teach, and the subtitle of the book, and I kiddingly, I use that all the time with you, is How to Be a Guy Without Being an Asshole. When you are the judge, jury, and executioner, everything is in your head. When people don't do what you think is the right thing, you just, okay, that's it. That's the judgment. That's it. There's no room for compromise. There's no room for talking about it. That's it. And I realized, and my daughters have told me this, that I was very, very, my level of anticipation and expectation were very, very high. And they, as a dad, and they ended up resenting it later on. I never saw it that. I just thought, that's where we want everything to be, is that high. You can't do that for everything. You can't get a 99 or 100 every time you do something.
And you can't do that for yourself.
No.
How do you can't respond to someone, social influences or whatever with expectations of perfection, because they're not your expectations of yourself. They are something placed.
Yeah. And my daughters, again, have said that you aren't the same person that we knew. And I say, thank goodness, because it's only about 12 inches from here to here, but it's 1,000,000 miles away.
Oh, I like that. That needs to be a quote, Mr. Holmes. Absolutely. Did you put that in your story? Because
something like that. But it's because when you are living through compassion, that just means you understand, that you're accepting of other people. That I've had the opportunity to travel Southeast Asia and Europe, and people do things differently. We do things. I do things. I live in Boston. We do things a certain way because that's the way we've always done it. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Everyone does it that way, don't they? Well, you travel around a bit, and you realize, no, everybody does it a little bit different. And it's that acceptance. It's kind of I call it the townie mentality. Everybody lives in the town. They grow up in the town. They get married in the town. And so therefore, everybody does the same thing, and that's what they're used to. But when you travel, it opens your mind. It opens your understanding that there are 1,000,000 ways to do the same thing. And you become much more accepting. So for me, transcendence, part of that transcendence was traveling and understanding other people and other cultures and how they looked at things. and being just that acceptance of difference is amazing. I grew up in a household that was, this is what you saw, this is what everybody did, this is how things were supposed to be. My dad was Air Force, you know, so I was the oldest, so I got most of that. And life isn't like that. It isn't hard and rigid and with sharp edges. Life is gray. We live most of the time in gray, right? It's never just all one or the other. It's shades of gray wherever we go. Whatever decision we make, whatever relationship we're in, all of that. And one of the biggest things I want to just say about transcendence when it comes to men is how they relate to other people, the people in their lives, the people that are closest to them. It softens them. They see it, they don't react. It's like taking a breath. I went through psychological counseling after my wife for 5 years, after she passed. And it brought up so many things I didn't even know were there. But what it did is it rounded the edges. And it made me realize I didn't have to have the answer for everything. I'd always been expected to have the answers, so I thought. And I always thought I knew the answers. Then I realized I didn't even know what the questions were. Forget what the answers were. So in doing that, I found that having the teacher, having someone there to guide you, someone there to coach you through whatever level you're at, really enables you to open up. It gives you that confidence that, oh, I'm not the only one this has ever happened to. If you read the stories in the book, you're going to realize you're going to be able to relate to almost every single author at some point in their story, because we've all had those things happen in our lives. We're not the only one. We're kind of self-contained vessels. Guys especially, I think, feel very isolated in a lot of respects, and we're singular vessels, and that, you know, we're the only ones that have ever gone through this.
Yeah. Not true.
Not true.
Not true.
Not true.
No, and you know, and I can see this with this group and other men that I know. It's the coming together and being able to be vulnerable with other men that is so supportive. And I know that for sure, you know, that's true in the women's community as well. You know, when we can share from our heart space about what we need and you know, what we want in our lives, without any kind of judgment, with someone who, you know, who understands, right, who knows, it's incredibly healing and powerful.
And it takes, if we take down those walls between people, it's amazing what happens, the energy that gets shared. Hey, that happened to me too. You know, how many times one of the authors was relating a story, and I just put my hand up and was like, yep, me too. Yep, that's happened to me. And just that acceptance that, hey, someone else has gone through this, really allows you to kind of tell the story. I can tell this. Somebody else told this too. I can say it. And that encouragement. And I think that's all any of us want, is that connection, isn't it? I think as we get older, we want more connections.
You know, I think it's something that we assume that we don't necessarily need, or maybe that we don't have access to when we're younger. I think, you know, I'm not sure that we just suddenly, you know, the switch gets flipped at a certain age, but yeah, there is that time when we're open. We become open, and I'm not really sure where that comes from.
I'm not sure either, but do you find the same thing, is that it's harder to make friendships later in life? When you're 18, you're 20, the expectation is that you want to meet everybody you possibly can, because you're going to make friends, you're going to make a life, you're going to do that. Then when you have your life, your associations are kind of with your family, with whatever your kids are doing, with with your work. And then when it's empty nester and you're a little bit older and you can now do what you want, there aren't necessarily as many people around as you thought there were. So making a friendship and making a connection later on is a little more difficult. But what I found is in doing this work is that that's possible. People over the age of 65, the biggest problem they have is loneliness. Period. So I always wanted to bring back the 70s commune. Okay, so I wanted this big house where everybody could have 10, 12 people live. They share a common. They have their own bedroom. They have their own space. They have their own bathroom, but they have a shared kitchen. And so everybody is in a community, and everybody looks out after one another. So people could be 65, 70, 75, and they have a community that they're involved with.
Yeah.
And you can have shared people around you all the time, as much as you want or as little as you want. Yeah. I've had that concept for a long time. You see it now.
You know what that means, Scott. That means you just have to do this, right? You just have to figure it out.
I got to figure it out again. But it's that loss of contact, I think, that is most threatening to why a lot of people just kind of close down and shelter. I saw it with my parents.
Yeah. Well, there were 5 of us kids, so I didn't really see that with my parents. But I do. I can totally relate to the, as you're getting older, you're so busy with other things that you stop paying attention to that one particular need of yours, which is for human connection outside of your family, outside of your spouse. To have friendships. That old show Friends, right? Great show relative to making connection. They didn't have, I don't know whether, I don't think I watched all of it at the end, so I don't know whether they ended up having kids or not, but how valuable is that kind of, having those kinds of relationships when, all the way through your life, because by the time you end up being, a senior, whatever that is even described at in terms of age anymore, we're looking at things like loss of loved ones, at health issues, all those things that do make us quite isolated, right?
Yeah.
They make us isolated and have us not feeling as though we can be vulnerable. So
because we have to be strong.
Yeah, you have to be strong, and you've had that time where you just haven't been connecting with people. So suddenly something happens, then what? That's when you need people the most, and you're not in a position
there.
Or you don't think you can. Yes, they're not there. Yeah.
They're not there because you haven't put them into your life. I was always accused of treating my friends better than I treated my family. Friends are always very important for me, and I'm very blessed that I have best friends from 7 years old. But I get to see them. I reconnected with them, and I get to see them on a weekly basis, and it's a joy. My travel partner was the best man at my wedding, and we've been to Europe, we've been to Southeast Asia. He wants to go to Southern America because he's been to Brazil and the northern part. He wants to go down further, Santiago and all through there. He's hit like, I think 75 countries. He's one of those guys who just travels at the drop of a hat. He'll scour if somebody has a $99 airfare to Guam, he'll take it because he can.
Okay, so the next time you're not at a meeting, we're gonna know that
you're gonna know.
Right.
I've just been hijacked and I'm somewhere else. But transcendence truly means being okay with everything inside of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, acceptance of it, not having to speak through those parts of you that come up and say, hey, you can't do that. Oh yes, you got to watch out. All these voices that we hear, they die down because now you're hearing it from your heart and not from trauma. all those old traumas coming up and speaking to you in your ear. Oh, you can't do it. No. Hey, remember last time that happened? All of these voices that we hear anytime we try to make a decision. And that's where the quiet comes in. And the one thing that I found with most of the men that are in the book is that there's a spiritual element, no matter where it was, whether it's church or whether it is spirit or whether it is higher power, however you viewed that, that's that portion of it. I was lucky enough to find that growing up, I was Protestant. I converted to Catholicism because we raised our children Catholic. And God was always this kind of deity out there. But what I found when in traveling and everything else is that it's right here. That's within us. And that we carry that around with us. And now it changes how I view everything. It's like, oh, well, maybe I should be better. Maybe I can be better. Maybe I can do better. And maybe.
But can I just toss this in for a sec? Because I just want to underline this little piece that we are being better because we feel the need to be better.
We
not
feel the
that
need to be better.
We are
right.
responding to a demand or, I have to do that or I don't. This is coming from you.
This is from
heart.
It's who we getting back to remembering who we were put on this earth to be. That's and it allows you to be that way instead of demands. It allows you to be that way forward in the world. All of a sudden, the relationships you have change, whether it's with your spouse or with your kids or with the people people start reacting differently. I was always I'm a big guy, I'm tall, I'm loud. People would kind of back up, it's like, oh my gosh. So coming across much more open, people now approach me. I never understood why they wouldn't approach me, because I scared the hell out of them. So now with a softer,
I have a hard time picturing that.
There were harder edges, honestly, and it's just a presence. Anytime I was in a real retail store, they always thought I was the manager. Okay, so it was just that aura I brought with me.
Okay.
So they always thought I was in charge, having that kind of that aura about in leadership. And very often when I'm in a group, they ask me will you run the meeting? Will you, we're looking for somebody to run the program. It's like, wait a minute. Yeah, because I don't have a problem taking responsibility on. Many times I took on too much responsibility, especially with nonprofits and things we were involved in. And for me, that's a need to give back. Yeah. Now I give back in a much different way. I give back from a position of strength, that I'm full, and I can give, and I can also say no. That's the hardest part. I never could.
Yes, and that's using your voice in both respects, really. You can say no because you know why you need to say no. You can say yes because you know why you need to say yes. Right? So absolutely, you're able to express exactly who you are and what you need. So yeah, that's your voice. Yeah, which is why kind of important. That Transcendent fits. It's kind of important. Yeah.
Kind of important.
Yeah, sure.
So it's it's really been an interesting trip. I apologize. The cat just came up. The cat really does like you. Do not get over there. Oh, okay. She wants to get in the film, in the clip. But anyway, so we're really talking about just living life in your fullest. You always say DIY, kick yourself in the ass, get yourself going. You always say that, and I used to tell people, well, just do it, just go, and they never truly understood or got it right. Now, when I'm working with clients, I do it, but in a different way. I build them up to be able to allow them to step into that themselves and to find their own way. Um, I don't have all the answers. They have the answers within them. We all do. We all have it. And it's just a matter of listening. And that's where the quiet comes in. That's where, when you get on the mountaintop and you can just hear the wind blowing, and then you can hear yourself. You don't have all the ambient light, right? You can see the stars for what they really are on top of the mountain. I mean, I've been on in a sleigh um, in the middle of winter up on a mountain, and you could almost touch the stars because they're so bright. And when you're down bottom of the hill with all the lights and all the, around the civilization, you can't see the stars at all. So it's that clarity of being there, the perception of being able to look down and have that clearness about who you are, what you were put on earth for. Truly, we all had a mission when we came to this world. But being able to hear that again, life gets in the way sometimes. But for me, now it's about fulfilling that mission that I was put here for, and understanding it, finding out what it is, and that's exciting. And I'm turning 65 this year, and I feel like an 18-year-old because I can do all those things I wanted to do when I was 18, such as writing, such as traveling, and I can now actually afford it. So it's really a lot of fun, and I am so, I already made a deal, and I'm living to 100, so I got another 35 years of doing this, which is great. So that's what I signed up for, and when I turn 100 and I can't do things anymore, then it'll be a good life.
Yeah.
But in that meantime, I want to touch as many lives as I possibly can in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
That's my ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. And what an ideal, what a goal. It's we don't all get there. So it really truly is a gift when people do. And because it's not then, and you mentioned it's not just about how we treat ourselves, it's how we treat others as well. Our relationships are very different after transcendence or finding your voice than before. The potential is just for a much richer, much more honest, much more vulnerable relationship, which is really needed right now, I think, between men and women.
Absolutely.
We've become unbalanced with the different energies, and started to call each other out for being what we think we're supposed to be, when in fact we need just that balance of both. Both men's traits and women's traits are amazing, and we need to bring them together
within ourselves as well as within our relationships, and
yes.
Doing the work, inner male, inner female, that balance of that compassion, that's the inner sacred feminine within men, and that's when they find their heart, is when they view women and they view that part of themselves in a sacred way, in honor, and that's what it is. I don't need to be carrying around a sword and a shield and everything every day. I don't need to be riding the charger through life.
Right.
I can do it without doing that.
And when you think about the vulnerability that allows you to back away from that, being open about who we are, and what we feel, as women, I think, have been much more used to doing. It adds an entirely new richness to a relationship. if you can
Absolutely.
understand each other on that basis, on that feeling basis, on that emotional basis, then yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, awesome.
That's
And
and
yeah,
if I can, that is true intimacy.
yes.
That is where intimacy is. You can have physical intimacy, but unless you have true connection, true intimacy in understanding the other person fully, you're missing out. You're
Yeah,
missing out.
yeah,
You really are.
yeah.
And
Agreed.
that's the hard part. That's the hard part
Yeah.
of everything.
It is. It is. Wow. Okay. This is awesome. And we could talk about this forever, as we often do. Just keep talking about about this stuff because it's so interesting. So, but we really probably should wrap it up just so people can go back to work. Um, so I wanna just say that again, I've really appreciated doing this work with you, and I thank you for including me in it. It is. It's really pivotal in terms of both growth of men and women. When women realize that they can take on some of the masculine traits as well as their feminine traits as well, and men do as well, and come together, it's a whole new ball game. So I'm really, I know I've said this before, that a lot of the guys have been saying, "Oh, this is a men's book. It's by it's by men for men." But I want to change that a little bit. It's also for women, because when you see the opportunities and the possibilities that can come out of a man who is vulnerable, that accepts a different side of him, the side that actually has always lived in him, right? That life can be very different, as I said. So yeah, so I want to say that. So I want to say thank you for helping me, because everything is a learning, right? Everything is, and you have upped my game in many respects. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
As have you. That mutuality is there, and you have changed the course of how I do business, how I see myself, how I see my writing, how I see my mission. You've enabled that, and for that I am forever grateful.
Mm,
So
thank you.
keep watching this. Keep watching this lady, because she does amazing things. You really need to see, watch, read her blogs, because she has an understanding and she hits right to the heart of things. She doesn't mess around.
Mm, thank you. That's really sweet. And I want to say to listeners to please, if you will, if you want to join our launch team, we would love to have you, because we had technical difficulties and we weren't live on Facebook first. Just send us an email, Scott or I an email. The email addresses are going to be in the show notes. So yeah, please do that. We would absolutely love for you to be part of that. It just means you read the advanced reader copy, you wait for the notice from our publisher that says, go on into Amazon and leave a review for us. So it's pretty simple. It's not a lot of work, and you get to read the book a little bit earlier than everybody else, which is kind of fun too. So yes, please do that, and watch for this book. Think about it as, when it comes out. It's coming out in August. So think about, getting copies and tucking them away for those that you love in your life that would be really interested in reading this. It's a very different take, and it's very different than a lot of writing on the subject, I think. Yeah, it's very pure. It's very real. It's very
Raw.
it touches your gut. Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much. And remember, listeners, I tell you all the time that just by showing up today and paying attention and listening to what's being said, you're kicking your own ass. You're taking a little bit of awareness wherever it shows up for you, and it doesn't matter where, and it doesn't matter if it's 5 times or it's only 1 or half of 1. You're taking that bit of awareness and you are internalizing it, and it will help you in some way. It'll support you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.